today. So thanks, Rosie. We will go ahead and get started. So we're going to start with our traditional welcome and introductions. We'll have a brief reminder of our committee objectives. We'll have a community member share. And then Josh Van Jura with us online will kind of give an update on the UDOT Trails and Transit Group. And then Megan here with us is going to go over some UTA Fairs information. And then we'll have a little bit of time for open discussion and announcements. And then we'll be done. So starting off with introductions, let's start, maybe we could start at, I'll start. So I'm Lauren Victor. I'm a long-range transportation planner at the Wasatch Front Regional Council, and I kind of focus on all things transit. Jay?
I am Che Mosqueda. I'm also part of the long-range planning group here at WFRC. I mainly focus on roadways, but have also been helping Lauren with the CAC meetings and other equity efforts as well.
Good evening. I'm Carolyn Hoskins. I work with DDI Vantage Early Head Start, and I am a resident.
Jay Aguilar, Utah Department of Transportation, Long Range Planning.
Jeremy Shinoda, Ogden Planning Commission.
Megan Waters. I'm with the community engagement at UTA.
Stephen Richardson, Ogden resident and Director of Strategic Initiatives and Policy for Weber State.
Rosie Hernandez, Executive Assistant at WFRC.
Curtis Herring, Executive Director of the Utah Transit Writers Union.
Mike Christensen of the Utah Rail Passengers Association and also Salt Lake City's Planning Commission.
Dory Johnner, WFRC Long Range Planning Group.
I'm Kendall Willardson, Mountain Land Association of Governments, Transportation Planner.
Great, and now we'll go online. Angelo?
Angelo Papastamas, UDOT Planning.
Thanks. Tashelle?
Hi everyone, Tashelle Wright. I'm a Harriman resident and also represent Project Success Coalition, Inc.
Thanks. Josh?
Josh Van Jura, UDOT, and I am the director of our Trails and Transit Group.
Thanks. Jim?
Hi, Jem Lokiao, UTA Long Range and Strategic Planning.
Thanks. Shauna?
Shauna Meekum with Mountain Land Association of Governments, Community Planning.
Great. Thanks. Sandra?
Sandra, Salt Lake City resident and also represent OCA Utah.
Thanks. Brighton?
Brighton Pease, Salt Lake City resident.
Thanks. And then Bianca? Okay, we'll go to Toya.
Hi, my name is Toya Jules. I am a Salt Lake City resident and also the founder of Village Tree Health.
Thanks. And Andrew, I just saw you popped on. We're just in our introductions right now.
Hi, everybody. I'm Andrew Riggle. I'm the public policy advocate for the Disability Law Center.
Great. Thanks. All right. I don't think I missed anyone. So we'll cruise on. Okay. I'll hand it over to Che for the committee objectives.
All right, so I'm just going to give a refresher of our shared committee objectives that we have came up with together. So for planning as transportation partners, that's WFRC, UDOT, UTA, et cetera. We are here to inform the advisory committee on the Wasatch Choice Vision plans and programs and create a space for learning about transportation and land use efforts. The advisory committee will advise the transportation partners on planning efforts relevant to the needs and lived experiences of diverse communities throughout the Wasatch Front region. For outreach and engagement, transportation partners will regularly share plans, studies, and programs, along with supportive materials and resources with the advisory committee to share with the community. The advisory committee will advise transportation partners on new avenues for outreach and public engagement for the Wasatch Choice Vision and related transportation and land use efforts, and will increase awareness and spread the word with members of their communities. For responsibility, the advisory committee will communicate issues and ideas related to transportation and land use, And to the transportation partners. The transportation partners will work with the advisory committee to consider issues identified through planning efforts.
Great, thanks, Jay. So just wanted to give a quick little refresher on that. So that's kind of what we're working towards with this committee. And then next, going to the community member shares, we had a committee member who was unable to join last minute that was going to do this. So Stephen so graciously agreed to do this in the 11th hour. So it was a last minute ask this morning. So thank you, and we appreciate you doing that.
Okay, thank you, Lauren. So of course, I definitely wanted to speak from just from daily tasks with being with Weber State and in my role as Director of Strategic Initiatives, and how this role intersects with the work of this subcommittee essentially. And so when it comes to Weber State, what we are in the middle of now is our 5-year strategic plan, wanting to achieve the plan's goals by 2026. And among those goal areas, they are equity, diversity and inclusion, retention and completion, personal connections and academic excellence, community anchor, mission, marketing, and branding. And so specifically in the areas of equity, diversity, and inclusion, because we were talking about equity when it comes to transportation needs and removing those barriers for our students. So just think about the students who may use the transportation UTA, the OGX. So thank you, UTA. It has definitely eliminated some of those barriers to students getting to and from campus, as well as cost. Currently, I was just talking with, what was your name? Megan, about once these costs sunset, the free fare, what are we going to do to keep those students riding? And definitely there are a lot of students who come from out of state without a vehicle. So we need to continue to make sure those barriers are not in place to keep a student coming to campus and completing their education. And so, again, there are other barriers when it comes to cost and affordability of college. We're trying to remain one of the lowest cost institutions in the state to make sure that our ROI continues to be nationally recognized, so that after 10 years of completing a degree from Weber State, the earnings is the highest in the state among all institutions. Then after 10 years, of course, it kind of balances itself out, but at least in the first 10 years, by paying a low tuition and then receiving that great education from Weber State, that those students, even from underrepresented communities who may be using the transportation, can still achieve a great income and support for their family. And then also to the community anchor mission, specifically the other goal area, we set out to intentionally apply our intellectual assets, economic influence, and financial and human resources in partnership with regional communities to seek a sustainable economic, social, cultural, and environmental system that ensures opportunity, equity, and inclusion. So we also, with the OGX being 100%, clean air, efficiency, electric vehicle, that's really helping us achieve our sustainability goals for the institution by 2050. We have actually already achieved that. And that thanks to, again, pouring our resources into clean energy on our campus, we're achieving that, but also how to sustain that and creating these partnerships with committees like this committee to make sure that we do not go back on our achievements so far. By the end of the plan, we can keep it going. And so we're looking to continue to expand our partnerships through this goal. So all of you who are affiliated with different organizations, even here in Salt Lake City and beyond, we're looking to expand our partnerships to ensure we continue to meet the needs of all of our students, faculty, and staff, because we have a lot of employees who drive from this area. So we're one of the largest employers in the northern Utah area, but they do commute. And so we want to make sure that everyone continues to consider Weber State a partner. And so I wanted to just mention this briefly, but of course, we're going to continue to give updates on our strategic plan. We have great progress. We're in year 3, and we're seeing our enrollment rebound. And as a result of some strategic efforts to get students, I mean, in this economy of students wanting to go back to work and just stop out for a bit, but we want to keep them engaged. And so thank you for all that you do.
That's wonderful. And thank you again for being willing to do that on such short notice. We appreciate it. Okay, so next we are going to go, the next two agenda items were ones from our discussion, if you remember, in September, of agenda items that the committee wanted to see at future meetings. And so I'm going to hand it over to Josh Van Jura with UDOT to go over the UDOT Trails and Transit Group.
Well, thanks everybody. Thanks for having me. It's good to see many of you again and meet some new faces. My name's Josh Van Jura. I am the director of UDOT's new Trails and Transit Group. So this is a very recent add to UDOT. We just kicked this off. Well, I guess I got hired in March, but we didn't actually have any money until July 1st. But we're moving ahead. So kind of wanted to do just a quick overview of UDOT's quality of life initiative. And so these are 4 main points. You know, we want to increase the mobility within our state, get better health, have connected communities, and also improve the economy as part of that. And I think that the Trails and Transit Group has a really interesting opportunity to do this. You know, good health, obviously, we had some really difficult air quality days last week. We will undoubtedly have more. So, you know, whether that be through active transportation, where people can, you know, use human power to get to their destinations, or transit, this is going to help, again, not only with air quality, but water quality, but honestly, I believe also their physical and mental health as well. Obviously, as the Department of Transportation, better mobility is a big factor for us. And we know that Utah is the fastest growing state in the nation. If you look at the 2010 to 2020 census data, our population increased by 18+%. And we can't just keep adding lane miles to solve these mobility problems. We really got to start looking at other opportunities. And again, this is exactly where converting some of those vehicle trips to transit or active transportation is going to take cars off the road, which I think is a great opportunity. Connected communities, and I think this probably resonates really well with this group. This is where transportation and land use really interconnect, and looking for those intermodal connections. So you can ride your bike to Front Runner or, you know, your various bus route, whatever it be, and look for these opportunities to get to your destination. And of course, you know, strong economy, not just but interstate, but also intrastate, right? So people can go down to, I don't know, their local bookseller rather than buying one online, or, you know, think of any other opportunity like that. So this is really what UDOT's Trails and Transit Group is focusing on. So thinking about, I'll kind of go give a quick overview of the Trails Group first. With that, so we say the Trails Group, but in the last fall now, so a little over a year ago, the governor and Carlos, our executive director, announced an initiative to create a statewide trail network. And this has been dubbed the Utah Trail Network. And the vision for UDOT is really to build and maintain a network of paved trails, underline the word paved, throughout the state that can connect all of us, different ages, different abilities, to where they want to go. I did a really rough calculation the other day, and simply took the number of driver's licenses that the state of Utah has issued and divided it by our population. And I was really surprised to know that there's only about 70% of the population that has a driver's license. And that was really surprisingly low to me, but think about all those people that are under the age of 16, that may be getting older and no longer are able to drive, people with different immigration statuses, people with, different ability constraints, if you will. I have a friend that has MS and he's my age, mid-40s, and he's never had a driver's license, and he rides his bike or utilizes transit to get to where he needs to go. So I think it's really important, again, to think about, we call it all users, but really helping everybody in Utah get to where they need to go. So this Utah Trail Network, it needs to be comfortable and reliable. And we say comfortable and reliable, and what we really mean there is a separated facility. We're not particularly thinking about bike lanes. We're not precluding them, but think separated facilities, right? Something that would be safe for, you don't have a semi whizzing by at 55 miles an hour with only a 4-inch white line between you. So again, safe, reliable network. And we want to build, I don't love
What do you
this
mean by
analogy.
reliable?
So great question. Sorry, I didn't see who asked that.
Oh, it's Tara.
Oh, 10-4. So by reliable, I think that really speaks to, I think we've seen a lot of trails that had initial funding, but have essentially gone into various lower levels of service, whether that be, a strong storm puts gravel all over the trail, goat heads, tree branches that have started to come into the trail, the super hot topic that I can't answer, snow plowing, route maintenance, cracks. I mean, just all of those things. We want to build a first-class transportation solution for trails the same way we do for our roads. Does that answer your question, Tara? Great, thanks. Yeah, sorry, I should have put this in there. Like, jump in. I was told I have 15 minutes plus time for questions. I read that as 20 minutes plus the last presenter was short. So if you have questions, jump in. So I don't love this analogy that I'm about to use, but it really resonates with people, at least in UDOT. When you think about the interstate system, I-80, I-70, I-15, this is really the backbone of our road network. And what we're looking to do with this Utah Trail Network is really build the equivalent of that for active transportation. So larger regional facilities that then local active transportation facilities can tee into. I love Sugar House Park. I wouldn't describe that as necessarily a regional transportation facility, because more often than not, I do not want to go in a circle. I will say that creating an active transportation facility that gets joggers and bikers and people that want to go feed the ducks to that does make sense. So I hope this analogy works for everybody. It's a little bit different, but again, what we're really trying to do is get people to get outside, which brings them together, that connected communities. For me, when people are walking or biking, you get to know your neighbors, you get to pet their dog, you get to meet their kids, and you just don't get that opportunity. And I think that's actually not as true, but still resonates for transit riders. You see your community members in a different way. But when you're in your car, I certainly wave at my neighbors, but it's pretty rare that we stop and chat. when we're in our cars, driver side window to driver side window. So I think this is a really important part of the trail network. Of course, transportation is our goal, but I think there's these other benefits of connecting with the community, physical, mental health that I'd really like to emphasize. So funding wise, this is the big thing. This is the super great part for me. Last year, our legislature put forth Senate Bill 185. And this provided $45 million in one-time money and then $45 million of ongoing money to build this network. And this is the cool part, because a lot of times we've gotten one-time money, which has precluded us from doing that maintenance, but also we didn't know when the next batch was coming. So we couldn't plan a network, right? We didn't have this dedicated source of money to say, this year we're going to build this project and next year we're going to build that project, right? We need a program. And while I'm super thankful for all the one-time money we've gotten before, for this to be successful, we need this to be a program. And that's that big word, right? So SB 185 provided for the planning, design, construction, maintenance, reconstruction of paved trails, again, underline paved, for non-motorized trail projects. These projects do need to get prioritized by the Utah Transportation Commission, just like our transit and our roadway projects. Again, they need to serve a regional purpose. So think, connecting communities, big vision stuff. And they do need to be part of the active transportation plan. So I would like to say thank you to all the MPOs in the group for all the work that they've done through the years, really building these AT plans, because that's going to be the start, right? Is identifying which of these trails that are shown on these AT plans generated by the MPO and also on the unified plan serve this purpose. So that's a super high level of what we're thinking there. On to the
What's an NPO?
Oh, sorry, Metropolitan Planning Agency organization. Sorry. So like WFRC, UDOT people, right? We use acronyms without even worrying. So WFRC is the Metropolitan Planning Organization for the Wasatch Front. Of course, there's MAG, CASH, and Dixie MPOs as well. And all of the state that isn't covered by those 4 MPOs is covered by UDOT in our planning process. And then it's all integrated into a larger unified plan. So let's talk transit. Our transit division is a little bit different than you would think based on the name. So House Bill 322 last year made UDOT responsible for basically everything up to ribbon cutting for revenue service, right? So we are planning, pre-construction, design, and construction for fixed guideway projects with state money in them. So fixed guideway is bus rapid transit. So if you're familiar with the OGX line, that's the most recent BRT that just opened. Basically buses running in dedicated lanes. Light rail projects, red, blue, green extensions to those, new lines, S line, and also front runner projects. So like I mentioned, we just got money in July. We're growing quickly on the transit and trail side. We anticipate that we'll have, about 20 employees total within this division. I think we're up to 7 right now, which is great since July. I was the first one. I was able to hire both a transit and a trails group lead. And then we're starting to hire some of their staff. Of course, part of that is figuring out what that org chart looks like in growing smart, not just growing fast. Most of our transit efforts have been dedicated around 3 projects right now, and those 3 projects are the strategic double tracking of FrontRunner. So I hope you're familiar with this project. This is a great project. I'm really excited about it. Basically, it's to double the frequency of FrontRunner. As you're probably aware right now, FrontRunner runs on 30-minute peak service and 1 hour off-peak service. And quite often 30 minutes to me, like I can plan my arrival time pretty well. And right, I love the fact that WFRC often plans their meetings around transit schedules. I think that's great. The difficult part is, when you get into an hour, if your meeting doesn't end, or, whatever your appointment, whatever you're traveling for, doesn't end at the right time, sitting around for 50 minutes really increases the length of your travel time. So with strategic double tracking of FrontRunner, the goal is to take that from 30/60 minutes down to 15 minutes in the peak and 30 minutes in the off peak. And this is really going to make ridership so much easier, and honestly just bring more ridership because it's just so accessible and it's easy, right? Transit is successful when you don't have to think about it. Sorry, I mean, there's some UTA people in the room, you may not agree with me, but when it's easy, it's great, right? I love taking FrontRunner. It might take a little bit longer, but if I hit the time right, I can send some emails, I can, text with my friends, I can just zone out to my AirPods and have some downtime rather than, trying to battle with a semi that's on the right-hand side of me and merging and all that stuff. So that's a great project we're working on. It is roughly $1 billion to double track 9 sections. So FrontRunner right now is 80 miles, give or take, tip to tail. About 20 miles of that is double tracked. And we need to double track 20 more miles of that to create those passing opportunities to get to that 15 and 30-minute service. The other project that we're working on, and this also received $200 million last legislative session, which is about half of the money we think we need, is a new Point of the Mountains FrontRunner station. So I know the next 2 projects I'm going to name use Point of the Mountain. They were kind of unfortunately named, but it is what it is. But basically, a new FrontRunner station for the development that's occurring at the old prison site. We know that there's a lot of development coming into there, and we want to give people a way to get there easily, and that's FrontRunner, right? So we're working on that. That is just entering the environmental stage. We're just kind of kicking that off again, using some of that newly allocated money for that environmental study. And then the third project is the Point of the Mountain Transit Study Alternative. Again, it's confusing. I know this is actually a separate alignment that analyzed 3 different options: bus rapid transit, light rail, and heavy rail, between the communities of Lehigh and Draper. And it is a different alignment than FrontRunner is today. Our goal is to announce a preferred alternative there before the end of the year. And yes, I know it's getting really close to the end of the year, and we're still on schedule, and that's all I'm going to say about that. So stay tuned. Also, as we grow our staff, we're looking to become more involved in other UTA projects, or, basically transit projects. I shouldn't say UTA projects. I'd like to retract my prior statement. Becoming more involved in these fixed guideway projects that have state money allocated to them. And again, that's an important component, is that have state money. So those are the 3 big ones that we're focusing on first, because they're kind of the biggest and baddest. And baddest in a good way, of course. So I don't know how long that was, but I feel like that was probably awfully close to 15 minutes. So what did I not cover that you want to know?
Can I just,
Angelo, were there things I didn't add in that I should have added in? Fill in the gaps for me, buddy.
I think we have just a quick clarification from
just
Megan.
a quick comment, and thanks, Josh. I just wanted to maybe clarify that UDOT is working really closely with UTA on all these projects. We know Frontrunner, we're the operator of Frontrunner. We know riders who ride Frontrunner know to come to UTA. So I just wanted to throw that in there that we're working really closely together. So UTA is still involved in those projects.
Oh, 100%. And thank you so much for adding that, right? This is 100% a team effort. You know, we couldn't, UDOT certainly could not do this without UTA. And I think it's important to remember that UTA will be the final owner and operator of these systems, but all the experience, knowledge, in the earlier side, yes, this is 100% team effort. So thank you so much for adding that. I should have started with that, and doing both presentations at the same time is different for me. And yes, so I missed that part.
No
So
worries,
thank
you're
you.
good. Here to help.
Yeah, Josh, I think you covered it pretty well, honestly. I mean, and Megan's point is dead on. And I think the only thing I would add is, and I've talked a little bit about it once with this group, but we're also doing first and last mile projects where we're having active transportation with connected to transit, and that's, you know, UTA, UDOT, Wasatch Front, MAG right now, and it's really going to look statewide. So that's the only thing I would add, and that's sort of separate from the transit and trails group at the moment, but certainly the connections, we coordinate all the time. We talk about things, and so that's all happening. So I would just say that, but I'd say you covered it, Josh. So.
Perfect. Thanks for adding that in there. Yeah, I think I hinted at it in the connecting communities and intermodal hubs, but yeah, yes, thank you. What else? You're not going to let me off that easy. Come on now.
So this is Tara from the Utah Housing Coalition, and I just wish you would use, some housing in there in terms of connecting transportation to housing. Because it's so important. You say community, but that doesn't, I don't know. I feel like we've been getting this lip service for a long time, and it's time to make sure that we are working around housing development, and because they're the ones who will be taking transportation, and trying to encourage people to have more equity in their home by not having a car. And so if we don't start doing it, we should have started doing it when Envision Utah started talking about it, 20 years ago. And we've lost. So I hope that this is being talked about more and more and more.
And that is an excellent point, and I 100% agree. And that is our goal, right? Is getting people from, when you think about transportation, it's getting you from your origin to your destination. And you're right. I took it to community, but if you think, most of my transportation trips or even recreational trips start at my house. So we need to look at, where we can do the greatest good. Is that?
Let me add a little bit more to that, please. So as any federal grant that we win, okay, we have to meet equity criteria. Part of that is affordable housing, underserved communities, okay? And so by default, we have to have that in our $30 million of projects that we're doing right now, it is absolutely part of it that we're thinking about that in those areas, okay? And so it's not specifically tied to affordable housing and transit-oriented development, but there's a connection that says, what are you looking at in those areas, okay? So we aren't ignoring it by any means, and certainly Wasatch Front is not. And so I wanna say we're trying to. You're right, we're behind. 20 years maybe. I don't know. We're definitely behind, and so we got to do a better job.
Josh,
I think one of the things that would be helpful. I like to ask questions. Sorry, is when we're talking about topics of conversation, I mean, I think that is the most interesting part would be to look at what you guys are, including in that, piece for the federal government. Because a lot of times what's written and what is meant to be doesn't happen. And I think this group, as you can see, is very diverse and information out to.
Well, I will share with Lauren some of the grant projects that we're doing, okay, and it talks about those specifics, okay? So I'll share that information. I'll just give it to Lauren and then she can distribute it out, okay? Does that work, Lauren?
Yeah, I'll circulate that. Thanks.
Okay.
Jeremy, I know you wanted to make a question.
Yeah, Josh, I'm interested in this network of interconnected, paved, non-motorized. I'm wondering what current communities have that that I could look at to see what Utah's future holds.
Yeah, I mean, there's some great examples right here on the Wasatch Front. I think a great example is the Jordan River Trail that continues on to the DRG Trail, right? Or down to the Murdoch Canal Trail. If you're in Summit County, you can look at, the Park City Trail Network. I live in Summit Park. If you can't tell, I actually do live in an A-frame. This isn't a fake background. This is what my roof line really looks like. But I can go from Summit Park, top of Parley's, all the way into Park City. And, my neighbor, she's 60 years old. She rides her bike to and from her job in downtown Park City basically all summer long. Right. And so because it's a safe, separated, high comfort facility. So those are some easy ones that are right near us. And if you need some others, let me know.
I was thinking more out of state. Like, what
Oh,
are you looking at? I know the ones here. Is there a model? Like,
yeah.
that,
So interestingly, the state of Florida, I would say they started their program about 8 years ago, and it's called the Sun Trail. And it's a statewide, essentially what we're looking at doing. And it's so cool to see what they've done because, they're just a more mature program than we are. So yeah, I would Google Florida Sun Trail, and that'll give you a really good example of another state. The other option would be looking at Davis, California. Now I know that's a very small city, but they've done an exceptional job, right? So we don't need to go to Copenhagen, but on a city network, Davis is great. On a state network, check out Florida.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Well, thank you so much, Josh. This was really informative. And if anyone has any questions that they think of, we can connect to you at another time.
Please share my email. I apologize. I do have a 7 o'clock appointment that I need to be at, so I'm going to drop off. But if I'll put my email in the chat box, and if anybody or contact information, I'll say, and if anybody has a questions, feel free to reach out. Have a great day.
Great. Thanks, Josh.
Thanks all.
Okay. And yeah, we'll share his contact information in our follow-up email. So now we're going to move to Megan, who's going to give a presentation on the UTA Fairs information.
Thanks, Lauren. I do want to preface my presentation that I am not with the Fairs Department. I'm the Community Engagement Director. Our Fairs team was unable to be here tonight, but I do have some information. This is more of like a resource share overview information of in response to questions we generated at the last meeting. And so I hope to address some of those as well and more. But I do want to encourage questions. If I don't know the answer, I will absolutely take it back and get you the answer. If you have suggestions or feedback, I'm also happy to take that. So that's my preface. There we go. Okay, so the two questions that came up were, what are the income brackets for access to low or no fare transit passes, as well as working with employers to provide affordable transit passes? So I am going to start with our reduced fare program. This is a little more expansive than just the income brackets, but I do want to share UTA offers a reduced fare program. It is 50% off regular fare, and we offer that to youth under the age of 18, seniors over the age of 65, people with disabilities, and low-income individuals who qualify via some criteria that I'm going to share. Just a note, kids under 6 do ride our system for free with an adult, so that's why our age range is 6 to 18. So our application process, which this is a fairly new program for low income specifically, that was added the end of 2021. And so it is still, we know there are still some things working out in the application process and the eligibility and criteria. And so this is a great time as well to kind of think through that. If you have experience with this or helping people with this fare application, I encourage you to share your feedback. So what is needed for applications right now? We do have it online. However, people can go to a customer service location as well to get help with the application process. People do need an email address, plus they do need to create an account on our application portal. They'll create a username and a password. We do ask that everyone is sharing their name, address, and date of birth in order to apply for a reduced fare. There is a requirement to provide proof of identity. There's several options for doing so. And right now, this program, they issue a reduced fare pay card. I have some information here. It's also available online. But it is printed with the picture of the person whose card it belongs to. So it's a fare pay card, which I'll talk a little bit about fare pay as well. So right now, that's how the program is working. It does have a photo upload. Additional requirements for our low income is proof of income. And I'll share some of that information on the next few slides. And there is some additional application eligibility, proof of eligibility for the people who are applying for the disability reduced fare as well. And that is a medical provider's disclosure on a specific form, or they can apply with their Medicare card. So for folks who qualify under low income, this was the specific question about income brackets. This program is open right now to folks at 150% of the federal poverty line. So that's how the income brackets break down depending on household size. We have this program open to adults. As you can see here, we have other programs that are a little less cumbersome for application if you have an age-based reduced fare qualification. So we encourage youth and seniors to apply for those age-based programs. We also have a partnership with the Department of Workforce Services. So folks who are low income that are eligible for some of these DWS programs do automatically qualify. They do not have to submit proof of income. They have proof that they are on SNAP or child care assistance. They can use that as their eligibility proof. This is just a little bit more detail about the disability reduced fare. Again, we do have a specific form that needs to be filled out by a licensed healthcare provider and submitted for that 50% reduced fare card. This is just kind of the eligibility details here. And this is also on our website. Are there any questions so far? So that was our individual reduced fare program. Yes, please.
I have a question for the low income, like refugee families and such. So it's just 50% off the full fare. Is that what it is?
It is just 50%.
Because I know that in the past they've done where if you're on food stamps or if you're on Medicaid, you get a card from them that they just stamp or they just show that was provided by Workforce Services, but now they don't do that.
Are you thinking of maybe the Horizon card?
No, that's food stamps.
I don't know
A
the
card
answer
that
to
they
that
got that they
question.
can scan that has money on it, or
Oh,
in the
like a debit
past-
card.
Yeah, like a debit card that they can scan that they didn't have to pay 50% off, like 50% at all.
That's probably something issued through DWS. So was a transit pass or was it like a debit card?
It was like a transit pass debit thing.
Huh. Okay.
So I'm just wondering if that is still being done by DWS, or is it now just 50% off the fair price for low income families?
As far as I know, it's this program. However, let me look into that. I think it sounds similar to something we did have, but I am not sure the status. DWS is working with us on this one. And I'll go, so that we do have some other options that human service providers, 501c3 nonprofits, different organizations are using to get passes to low income families too. So, which is still a little different than what you're describing. So let me look into that.
What if Sorry, I was just going to go really quickly. Andrew had his hand up online, and then we'll get to the in-person folks. Andrew?
Just a quick question on the low income side, is that list of documentation at the bottom of the slide, is that are those or verifications or and verifications? Meaning, do you just need one of those, or do you need all of those, or somewhere in between?
Great question. Thanks, Andrew. Those are or. So for proof of income, one of those proofs of income.
Okay, that helps. And then a similar question on the other side. I know folks don't always have a driver's license or a state ID. So is there the ability to provide other proof of identification?
Yes. Do you have specific suggestions for what those might be? I think we do have that, and we've talked about, this is not an exhaustive list up there,
Okay.
but we're coming along, I would say. But if you have specific suggestions for things that have worked or that you recommend we accept as proof of identification, that is very helpful.
Well, first of all, think the yes answer to the question is great. And then not off the top of my head, but I do know I'd be happy to think through that and provide some, but I do know that at least unless they've done something, made some drastic changes to it in the last couple of years, we did have a pretty extensive list of alternative proof of identity and proof of address options for voter registration.
Oh, great.
So that might be a place to look as well.
Thanks, Andrew.
And then we'll come back in the room, Carolyn, and then we'll go to Sarah, and then back online. I see another hand raised.
What if a family is on SSI?
Is your question, Carolyn, about if they would qualify for low income with SSI?
Yeah.
Do they have, like, is that a letter? Is that like, how could do they have a documentation? I think that's the thing, is like showing, we're asking people to show us that they're eligible, right? So is there something like that that would accompany that program?
There is for my program.
Okay.
It's a letter from Social Security.
Okay.
Stating what they get on a monthly basis.
Okay. That's a great suggestion. I don't know. I can't say for certain if we do or do not accept that. I'll take that back and I will get an answer. If we don't, it's a really good suggestion to include.
Yeah, and then my other suggestion is we have a lot of friends who are unhoused. And so that proof of address is going to not always be something you can get. And then also change of address. I don't know if you're mailing this reduced fare or anything like that, or if you're going to need continual proof of address in the future. So just thinking through individuals who are not able to prove address, but are definitely going to be needing this type of assistance, especially we've been talking, I think Tara's brought up this needing access and being able to find housing. So transportation is huge in finding housing, especially when you're unhoused and not able to access transportation.
Thank you. So we have options. We do mail the card if it's all done online and they want to mail it, but I think your suggestion is really good. If we can have folks indicate that they need to pick it up, or if there's a change of address somehow, because we definitely serve a lot of folks who are unsheltered that don't have permanent addresses. And I understand this is not reflecting that. So let me take that back as well and see if our application can be a little bit more flexible in that arena.
And then online, Sandra, I see your hand raised.
This is also a question related to the application. If you're applying for your whole household, does each person need to make an account, or can it be done through one singular account?
I don't know the answer to that. My inclination was that likely each person would need their own. But it's a good point if we're basing it off of household income, like having the option to do one for each of the household members. I can, again, I will take that back and find out. My gut is that we don't allow multiple users on one account. But thank you for bringing that up.
Does the proof of identity have to be a US issued?
I
Or
don't
could it-
believe so.
Could be, we have students from overseas that might want to pass, or
Hmm? That's a great suggestion. I don't think it does. And I'll make sure it doesn't.
I have a little quick, so in the past when I've helped like refugee families sign up for like EBT or insurance and such, I know that like the main household person would make the account and they can add the children and dependents under them. And that's how they determine how much EBT they're gonna get or how much like of the benefits they're gonna get. So is it that same kind of system? Yeah, I think that would be something to clarify.
Yeah, that would be a great model to follow. Again, I don't think that's how we're set up yet, but I appreciate that. There's likely others like in our close proximity that have this dialed. Thank you for all of the.
Oh, Andrew,
Another?
I see your hand again.
Sorry, I just spotted something else that caused me to ask another question. On the disability side, it says a Medicare card, but Medicare is not necessarily income based, but Medicaid is. So I just wanted to clarify: is it truly Medicare? Is it Medicare and Medicaid, or do you mean Medicaid?
So we mean Medicaid under the low income side, and then Medicare under the disability side. And I think that is correct. What I have written on the slide. Is that a cause for concern?
No, I just think that I just wonder if it should be, and I haven't thought this all the way through, but on the disability side, because there if it should be Medicare or Medicaid.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point, Andrew. I'm taking vigorous notes. So I'll take that back too. So on the disability side, seeing if there's expansion for Medicaid as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions at this point? I believe you still have some.
I
slides
do.
left.
I have more info.
So.
So I wanted to tell you next about our Human Service Pass program. This is a program similar to an employer-based pass program. Eligible organizations apply to purchase passes from UTA at a discount. This one is at a 75% discount. There are some minimums that I'll share on the next page. But essentially, they say an organization comes to UTA, says, we serve a low-income community. We'd like to provide passes to them at no cost. That is a stipulation of the program, that those passes be passed on for free to the end users. And there's also a requirement or a recommendation that these organizations who participate in this program do have a method for determining eligibility. We don't dictate that, but that is part of when an organization comes to this page and applies to be on the Human Service Pass program, we do ask about the eligibility process. This is just some detail about those minimums. We do offer through this pass program monthly passes and daily passes. So minimum on the monthly is 25 and then daily is 100. If you have questions about these minimums or thoughts on these minimums, I'm happy to think that through and take suggestions back. The other piece of this program that is very new and hasn't quite taken off, I would say, because there are some challenges with it. But programs who have signed up to be part of the Human Service Pass program, they don't have to purchase passes from us in bulk, but they can, through that, be able to support back-end eligibility verification for individuals who may use their services. So, for example, if we have an organization that doesn't have the funds necessarily or doesn't have it in their program goals to purchase passes and pass those on, they could still be there to say, okay, Megan Waters, she's connected to our services. We verify that she is eligible for this program and do it on the back end so that it takes away the individual having to go through our eligibility and application process. It's a little bit clunky right now. I would say it's not been fully taken up by organizations. There's some process challenges with it. I do want to share just a couple of things though. I asked our affairs team for some numbers on utilization. We do have 111 various organizations that do participate in the Human Service Pass program right now. And it is highly utilized. We've had a lot of folks using regular bus service and tracks in the majority, and 72,000 distinct passes have been tapped during 2023. So that's pretty exciting usage. Yeah, so any questions on the Human Service Pass program? Okay, great. I just wanted to plug FairPay. FairPay is our reloadable electronic fare card. Right now, if people have a FairPay card, they do get 20% off of their ride. This is something you can purchase. Yeah, there's Mike's got his FairPay card. You can purchase it online or you can purchase it from a customer service location. We also have FairPay retailers. I don't have an extensive list of all of them, but they said places like Walgreens, Harmon, 7-Eleven, and you can also reload these cards there, or you can do that online. So this is a good option, kind of as a middle ground between reduced and full fare.
Just a quick question about it. Would there be an Apple Wallet version where you can load money like Apple Card in the future? Like someone who doesn't want to buy it or whatever, they can just reload how much they want on the go and just scan it.
So we have, mobile ticketing that might work similarly to what you're saying. Our mobile ticketing does not have the 20% discount. So that is a caveat of doing it that way, sort of digitally. Our fare system technologies are also going to be updated. We're replacing things like ticket vending machines, and there's improvements coming. I know we haven't had, like, people can't pay with a credit card even, and like tapping on, and that's been something we hear a lot about. Like, if you get on the bus and you want to pay cashless, but you don't have a fare card or you don't have a mobile ticket. And so there's a phased plan of kind of what's going to be improved when, and I can't speak to that in any sort of competent way, but we know there are other ways that people want to pay for things. So the Apple Pay is a good thing for us to know, I think.
Fare pay be available at the track stations where you're buying your ticket. You can click either the paper ticket or you can click on buy a fare pay card right now.
I don't know. That's a great question. We've talked about, like, just kind of among ourselves, like if we could get more people reloadable forms of fare media, that would be a really good benefit. So I don't know what's going to come out of the TVMs, out of the ticket vending machines, but I can ask that question.
Sandra, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I know UTA pushes the transit app a lot, and recently they had updated to where you could buy like a ticket or something through the app. Are you also thinking of expanding more of these programs and like Fair Pay into that app, since it's super helpful for finding your routes and whatnot?
I hope so. Yes. I hope we are. Right now you can, and it's a little bit confusing. Like I mentioned, our low income reduced fare program is a bit newer. And it's not reflected in the mobile ticketing. However, there is reduced fare reflected in the mobile ticketing. I would just make sure that folks know sort of what that process is to be eligible for those programs before they purchase on mobile. But if they have gone through the eligibility process and have, for example, if they have the reduced fare pay card, they don't necessarily have to reload it to pay cash at a reduced rate, if that makes sense. If they have gone through that, they could purchase or pay cash or buy the mobile ticket at the reduced rate. So the reduced fare is on there. If there are other pass options that people are interested in having on the mobile app, I would hope that it's all sort of, you can get what you need anywhere. And so I appreciate that suggestion. I think it is a little confusing when things don't show up in certain places. Hi, I've got two hands. Lauren, you want to?
I was gonna say Tara had her hand up, and then we'll go to you, Mike. Is that okay? Okay, Tara.
I really appreciate this information. Thank you, because I don't think I've ever looked it up before. And I guess my question is, maybe we can talk about this offline, but we are kicking off our new website, and some of this information would be really helpful if we could put it on renters resources.
Yeah,
I think would be great.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks, Tara. And I know this is a lot of information and it's complicated, so I appreciate you guys asking the questions and giving me time to talk through all these details, even though I'm not the expert on this either.
You did great.
One suggestion I have that could be implemented pretty easily through the mobile ticketing in the transit app would be to have, in addition to the day passes that are offered, having like a 3-day pass and a 7-day pass. And there are monthly passes, but it would be great to have like a 30-day pass, because that's not fixed to a calendar month, because sometimes people's needs for a pass aren't fixed to that.
Totally agree.
I was thinking about Stephen's comment about the sunsetting of the OGX free fare after 3 years. And I was a student at Davis Tech and they gave us free transit passes if you're a student there. So I'm wondering what other higher education institutions currently participate in just giving a free transit pass to their students besides Davis Tech, which is the only one I'm familiar of right now.
There are quite a few actually. University of Utah, Salt Lake Community College, BYU and UVU, Davis Tech. Does Weber State have their pass program as well? Yeah.
Like Weber State students get a free transit pass?
Sorry, will you use your microphone for the folks online? No, you're good. Thank
Okay, so Weber State students and employees get a free fare pass. But my concern earlier was about all of the constituents or riders of OGX, that all of them travel through our campus on that line. And so I'm just concerned about those who, once they, do not have access to those free fares, if they will, because a lot of those students, our students are 25 plus. And so if there was someone thinking about returning to school but don't have transportation, then suddenly we're adding that cost on how to get to school. They're not a current student, then, it's like, okay, well, if I don't enroll, I don't get free fare, but that will be a factor to people who don't enroll as students, to get to the hospital and McCady and all of that. So it's just something to consider and have a solution for.
Did that address what you were asking, Jeremy?
Yes, thank you.
Of course.
How about, I don't want to compete with school buses, but how about high school, public school districts? Do you have any
We have
partnerships?
Yes. So Salt Lake City School District's PASS program is relatively new. They're in their second year, but it's been really successful. That's a partnership between the city, the Salt Lake Education Foundation, and the Salt Lake City School District. And all of their students, staff, and now newly added this year, for this school year, a household member of each student receives a transit pass. So that's the biggest example. We do have our charter schools on transit pass programs, but no other school district wide pass program exists.
There's a school bus driver shortage, and there's consolidation of schools. And so the distance that kids are having to travel to their schools is getting farther and farther. And I think there's a lot of opportunity to get our kids to school safely using UTA.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been asking for some information too, like so that we can highlight the Salt Lake City School District program. I think on the surface, it's like, oh, why did I've gotten the question like, why did Salt Lake City School District have a pass program and not Granite, for example? And I think we really need to shed some light on how that process went down so other people can engage with it and consider if it's a good option for them as well, to help subsidize fare for their school communities. So I hope to have some information too to share that's kind of public facing that might be more helpful for if you have stakeholders or school district contacts that you wanted to share it with. I think that could be really helpful. But we've seen good ridership, good engagement with the program in Salt Lake.
To add, with everything going on in the world right now, there are some refugee communities that have reported that they're being harassed, like on tracks and public transit. What are we doing as a community to make sure that's like where can they report to? Is there police? Are you guys like what is being done? Because there's been times where they've been told go back to where you come from. You don't belong here because if they're wearing the hijab or they're not even part of they're just individuals and they're being harassed like on, and that's the way that they get to school, that's how they get to work and such, and it's making it unsafe for them to take public transportation.
Yeah, no, it's, I mean, thank you. I'm sorry that's what's happening. I probably don't have a great answer. For sure, our police department and dispatch are available if people see something harmful happening to others on transit. There is a dispatch number. It's 801-287-EYES, and definitely encourage people to call in if they're feeling unsafe. I do, since we're going on this tangent a little bit, we do have a pilot program that is, I'm hoping to launch in Q1 of 2024, that will be on tracks. We're hoping to put transit staff on tracks trains, specifically the blue line to start, as that's been identified as a priority. And we're trying, in an ideal world, we'd have staff on every tracks train. We just don't have the resources at this point, but this suggestion or this program, I guess, is being modeled after some other transit agencies are called transit ambassadors. We're calling ours tracks ambassadors, just to be specific. It is a pilot program, but we're hoping that, you know, for multiple things, we want them to be able to provide our riders with information, but also to be able to provide people who may need specific resources with resources and information in the community. But also, we know that having somebody there that's sort of, you can visibly identify them as a helper, can help sort of create a better perceived safety for people. They're intentionally not law enforcement officers. We're working closely with our law enforcement and our operations staff so that those staff members will be very closely connected. If there is something that needs a higher response or needs sort of like medical attention or law enforcement intervention, they'll be really connected to them. But we're hoping that they will be helpful, visible folks to support riders. So not exactly related to what you said in terms of what's being done, but hopefully they'll provide kind of an extra set of eyes and ears on the tracks trains.
In reference to that, so in Front Runner, you have ambassadors. Are they called ambassadors or are they called?
They're called train hosts.
Train hosts.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the difference in the job duties of ambassadors?
Great question. So our train hosts are actually federally regulated safety employees. They will have some similarities for sure. The train hosts are great at engaging customers, giving information. The Transit Ambassador Program or Tracks Ambassador Program has come about as well as a response to supporting riders who are experiencing homelessness or who may be in other types of crisis needing support and referrals and resources. And so this Tracks Ambassador Program will have some specialized training related to mental health first aid, referring to community-based resources, things like that, that may be slightly distinct from the train host duties.
And just finally, why can't the officers do a spot check or a random check on the tracks like they do on the Front Runner?
They actually do.
Okay.
And I don't think it's predictable or like scheduled, but they are also out on tracks.
Because I'm frequently taking tracks from the airport and, a late 11 o'clock or 10 something one. And I'm like, it's late and there are a lot of concerns, it seems, and I'm never seeing them. And this is like almost weekly for me.
That's great feedback.
Any other comments or questions right now? I think you still have a few more slides. Buckle up.
Oh, you guys are you're so nice. I'm glad that this information is going over well. So the last piece is about employer-based pass programs. This was a question as well, just about how this works. And this was a learning for me as well. This is available on the website to learn this information as well, but I just kind of want to recap that we do have some different models. So we know that there's, specifically the question was about low or no cost employer pass programs. We do not have no cost employer pass programs. We do have negotiated contracts for different types of employers. And you can see here, there's some different models. So we have that first one that's listed is good for larger organizations. And we also have more flexible options. I have this in a one-pager. If anyone is interested in taking it back and learning more, you can always reach out to our team though. Our affairs team is happy to help talk through options and think through what works best for different types of agencies, organizations. So yeah, does anyone have specific questions on this part? I'm not as versed in this. I don't talk about it as much as the reduced fare. Yeah, go ahead.
Are you going to mention the Hive Pass?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I was. This is kind of miscellaneous info, but in the thread of fares and accessible, affordable transportation, I already mentioned that children under 6 do ride UTA services for free with an adult. I mentioned the Salt Lake City School District Pass program. If you know anyone in Salt Lake City School District who has kids in school in Salt Lake City School District, their household should also be getting a transit pass that's transferable. It's not tied to one individual. So, mom, dad, uncle, grandma, if you're all in the household, anyone can use it, which is pretty cool. And if people aren't taking advantage of that, it would be awesome to see more people opt into their pass. The Hive Pass, absolutely. Mike, thanks for prompting that. So the Hive Pass has been updated a little bit this year. It now includes Front Runner. This is again, a Salt Lake City resident program, but it's subsidized by Salt Lake City at more than 50% now with Front Runner added onto the pass. So Salt Lake City manages that. You can go to the website if you are a Salt Lake City resident and check it out. Or if you're not a Salt Lake City resident, you can go check it out as well and maybe suggest it to your local municipality as well. I do want to plug, we have a transit education program known as travel training. This is not necessarily related to fares, but in the same vein as kind of getting people on board and learning the system. Through this program, we do have what's called a training pass program. If you know of an organization that has clients that they take out to learn the system, we can provide passes to do that education. So if you're a trainer at an organization and you take your folks out, we don't want you to have to pay exorbitant amounts of money to go do that weekly or daily, even with people who are just learning the system. So if you're interested or know anyone who might be interested in that, our travel training program is a great resource. They also do individualized and group trainings as well as train the trainer programs. This last one I learned about recently, Murray, if anyone is in Murray, Murray has a Murray Transportation Assistance Program that is new and looks fairly generous. They're offering transportation support to residents who qualify. I think kind of in the form of a debit card, like you were kind of mentioning that model earlier. So if you know anyone there, have them look into that. The last thing I wanted to mention, that's the end of my slides. I do want to mention that many of you are probably familiar with our Change Day process. Change Day generally happens in August. It's when we shake things up. We change service for a reason. It can be disruptive though. So this next year in 2024, we'll be starting our public process in about March. But I do want to add that we are advocating internally that all these public facing changes should be going forth at the same time. And so we are moving forward proposed fare changes with proposed service changes. And so there may be some some things related to the reduced fare program to look for as well. I'm sure everyone is interested in kind of looking at what proposed service changes are, but just wanted to give a heads up. There will be an opportunity to kind of review and give us feedback on both service and fare changes in March 2024. So I have all your comments though now. Thank you for all the feedback and questions. I do have information on the reduced fare pay card and the workplace eco pass programs, if that's of interest.
It's really great. Thank you. Yeah, get some water. Any last questions or comments? We just have a few more minutes, but we'll connect you with Megan and the Fairs team and pass along back and forth any information as she looks into some of those questions that you asked. And the last thing that we had was just kind of open discussion announcements. So if you have any upcoming events, open houses, things of the sort, now's your time to share them, and we will share those with the group as well.
I do have one thing. So the federal government, the Department of Transportation has put out a request for information, and it is basically what they would like is to get information from people on updating ADA standards for transportation facilities. These ADA standards haven't been updated, I believe, since 2006, and that was from information from before then. So most likely early 2000s and late 90s. So there's a lot of different transportation facilities that need updates with different ADA requirements. And we'll send out an information in that request, or we'll send out something that has the website and where you can basically put a comment in, and that closes on the 5th of January.
I just wanted to ask everyone if they received notice of the Utah Transportation Conference that we held in October.
If they
Did all of you
received
see that?
notice of it?
Yeah. I think you guys sent out a notice. right?
Yeah, all of our committee members were able to, UDOT sponsored them for free.
Okay.
So,
I just wanted to touch bases.
oh, yeah. Yeah, and Sandra actually presented, I think she may have had to go, but Sandra presented on a panel at the conference, which is really great. I believe we sent out some sort of update email with that.
Is there any highlights for those who couldn't attend that you like to highlight?
Like to cover all the sessions. No, but I think if you want to, you could reach out to me. And there are recorded sessions, so you could watch the ones that you're interested in. I didn't attend all of them.
Yeah, I saw something in the chat.
So this is Tara. We have our awards that are happening next Tuesday, 7:30 in the morning. And we're celebrating the coalition being around for 50 years. And so if you're interested in coming, the governor will be speaking, which is great. And so it's a free event. So it's in the chat where you can register, and we welcome everybody.
Wonderful. We'll share that in our follow-up email that we'll send in a couple days. Andrew, I see your hand.
Yeah. I've been trying to ignore it because it's the worst time of year, but the governor's budget coming out today, which I haven't had a chance nor desire to look through yet, but it did remind me, and we might not be meeting again in time, but I'm wondering if there are, if folks know of any transportation related proposals that we should be aware of for the session.
Yeah, we there was in our September meeting when we had the brainstorming of future topic ideas for these meetings. One of them was kind of legislative previews, things like that. We weren't able. I asked Miranda, who is our government affairs manager at WFRC, kind of when she was available and if she could give some updates. She wasn't able to make this meeting to do kind of a preview, but we do have her coming in February. It is in the middle of the session, but she'll give kind of an update of what's happening, and then we'll also have her at the following meeting, giving an update of kind of what happened, what that means. But I think prior to the session starting, we can pull something together that's at least an informational resource that we can share out. And then we also, every year, WFRC creates and kind of maintains a bill tracker. And so those things that we'll be tracking will be related to kind of transportation, land use, those things. So I'll make sure to share all those resources so that you have that information going into the session. And then, like I mentioned, Miranda will be coming and giving kind of 2 updates, mid and post.
That'd be great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Any other updates, comments?
I have one more thing that Jem reminded me of. It's fair related. So my team, community engagement, is often out in the community at different events and resource fairs, and we do bring with us complimentary guest passes if we're talking to folks who may need some transportation support to go apply for their reduced fare card or just want to try out the system. We, generally will have those with us when we're out in the community. So just wanted to let that be known as well.
Good plug. And there was a lot of information in Megan's presentation, and just know that we'll be sharing the presentation. So you will have all of that information at your fingertips to kind of look back on. Any other comments? Cool. Well, I say we are adjourned and we'll meet next in February. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.